Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the movie that it's finally here.
It's definitely here.
After a long period of will this ever exist, this week we're talking about The Flash.
A movie that feels like it should have a longer title? Can I just throw that out there right off the top?
It feels like it should have a longer and a different title.
A longer and different title.
It's been a long road getting to this film, or for that, like not for us necessarily, because we're covering it the first week, but for this film to come into existence, because we've talked about this before on the pod. This movie was in production hell for a long time. They announced that Ezra Miller was playing the Flash on the same week of the premiere of CW's The Flash show.
And The Flash show just ended after 8 seasons.
Grant Gustin played The Flash for 8 years in several multiversal crossover events. He crossovered with this Flash on his show before this film came into existence. A film that went through a good half dozen writers and directors.
Oh, so many. I think Lord and Miller at one point
Lord and Miller,
attached.
I think, were the first attached.
I think Mark Webb from Amazing Spider-Man was attached at one point.
At one point, Greg Berlanti was attached.
Yes, the Flash universe creator, yes, or the Arrowverse creator, Berlanti, yeah. That's so, and you know what? But it is here, and I guess we have to swallow our words, because I don't know if we did it on mic, but many times we have said this movie would never get made.
We have done it on mic. We have said
okay.
on mic that we thought that this movie would never get made or come out.
I think 8 years is pretty long, though.
Pretty long, and it was still on the fence of a maybe, because after going through a few dozen creatives who were hired and fired on this project, it crossed the finish line with problematic Ezra Miller, a person who is just a swath of allegations.
I'm going to say this is the only universe in the multiverse where this movie came out.
Yeah.
Every other, even little inch of a branch on a timeline, the Flash movie doesn't
This came out on a razor's edge.
Razor's edge. But yeah,
You know you're in trouble when your lead actor is not allowed to do press. They were not allowed to do press.
No, they haven't done a single interview. They did one red carpet. Only photos were allowed. Mm-hmm. It's not great. It feels weird to have watched it and to have seen it after all that.
It's certainly a complicated thing. I think of all of the new movies that we cover on this podcast, I think that this is one that there will be maybe quite a few people listening to this episode who do not go to see the movie, because I think that if we weren't covering it for our jobs, I would probably be like, I don't know if I need to really drop in on this one that's hanging on by a thread with the laundry list of problematic allegations. Hanging
on by a thread, I do try to kind of be fair to how huge and collaborative a film is, though. I was like,
that's true.
Should Sasha Calle not get to have a big thing as Supergirl because Ezra kind of sucks? It's hard to, there's so much wrapped around that it's hard to be like, what is the right thing to do? Should everyone else who worked on this movie suffer because Ezra isn't great?
Yeah.
It's a hard balance.
It is. It's a difficult conversation and a decision to make for large collaborative art forms like film. Absolutely.
So you listeners do whatever's right for you. I would say if we didn't have a podcast, I'd probably pirate it.
Yeah, I would probably do the same. I would probably do exactly the same.
And I'd probably tweet out and be like, Sasha was great.
And even when it comes to supporting all of the other creatives and actors who are involved with it as well, even that's kind of weird, because this is a dead man walking of a film as well, of a franchise, I guess. Not of a film, but of a franchise.
Yeah, the DCEU is dead.
Yes, yeah. This is the film equivalent of a scene in a movie where someone gets chopped with a samurai sword and they don't know it for a second. And they take 2 steps until their top half slides off at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
This movie is those 2 steps. It's already dead and it doesn't know it yet, is kind of where this is at in a timeline of franchises.
It's like watching a prequel when there aren't sequels yet.
Yeah.
Like, when you watch a prequel, you're like, well, I know how it ends. There's not going to be any more. This is a prequel. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of, I know that this ends.
A messed up vibe in general
Weird
going
vibes.
into it. But those are the vibes. We're talking about The Flash today. Since it is a new movie, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about seeing it, maybe you're on your way to see it, you just want a taste of the episode, whatever your reasons might be, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review here now in a moment. Then once you hear the theme song, that is when we will enter the spoiler-filled section. So to start with a simple spoiler-free review, let's start with the usual question. Simply, Diana, did you like it?
I did quite like it. I almost wish I didn't, honestly, but I did quite like this movie. I think it's quite funny. I think the action's quite good. Well, the first half is quite funny, and then it kind of tapers off, but like purposefully, not like the jokes aren't landing anymore. I think the action's quite good. It's exciting. I will say for an hour that's a movie that's 2.5 hours, it flew by. I was not checking my watch. It did not feel like it was super long, which is a pretty rare thing to say about the movies these days. I actually don't think Ezra was super great. I don't think they were bad, but I was like, you were replaceable, that's for sure. Like, they're pretty good at comedy. Emotionally, I didn't feel a lot of resonance, which actually made me a little sad. I was like, this movie could really tear your heart out in a way, and it didn't get there. And I was like, oh, I would have loved to have had my heart torn out. That would have been nice. But it's like, it's a really fun ride for the most part. I had a lot of fun, good times. If you like superheroes and DC stuff, you're probably going to have a lot of fun in this movie. I quite liked it. Yay? Andrew, did you like it? What are your complicated or simple feelings?
I think kind of similar. I'm similar vibe to you. I really liked it. I don't think I quite liked it as much as you. I really did. I really liked it. It wasn't up to it didn't make it up to a love for me, but I had a really good time. I think it's very stylish. I like the visual style of this movie. There are a few points where I'm like, oh, you've actually like made a choice here. And it makes me feel really good because there are a few moments in this movie visually where I'm like, I don't actually like this choice, but I'm glad you made one and a bold one, and you didn't make the bland decision. So there's some stuff where I'm like, I like this, I dislike this, but at several moments I'm like, this isn't the bland formulaic decision that I kind of expected it to be. So I like its visual style. I like, just the way it looks, the way it feels, the vibes are right. I think it's very fun and playful. I agree with you. It never quite hits any emotional resonance. There's one scene where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel something.
I think I know the scene.
But it's a little too late. It's too little too late for that. So it doesn't have a strong emotional core. And I think that that's partially due to the script and partially due to Ezra's performance. I think Ezra does a good job differentiating between the two timeline variants they play. But it's not breathtaking. It's not like, oh wow, this is irreplaceable. It is. I agree, it's very replaceable, but there are some good things that work in there. So I think that it doesn't hit that emotional core. It's pretty fun. I agree that the pacing is good and it kind of breezes by. It keeps moving. There are moments of genuine laughs and some moments of genuine tension as well. Like it got reactions out of me when it wanted to get reactions out of me.
Yeah, I'm actually mostly impressed by the pacing, I will say, for a movie that has no traditional act structure and actually is kind of missing like middle action pieces at all. It really flies by and oddly works as like an action piece and a comedy piece. I completely agree, not as an emotionally resonant piece. And this is such a story that can really get you hard emotionally when it's done right. So that's a little disappointing. But yeah, it does. And also I agree that it looks like its own thing, but like still part of the Snyderverse.
I agree with that.
It still looks, I'm like, that is the same Barry from Justice League, and this is the same universe, but it still looks like a Flash movie and a little bit different.
I fully agree. It feels internally consistent while at times matching the Snyderverse, while at times matching other universes, but still keeping it from this very Barry Flash-esque perspective of a skewed distortion of reality, something a little bit different, a little bit stylized. I think that a lot of respect goes out to Andy Muschietti, who directed this film. I think that this is a phenomenal direction. I think that there's a lot in this that has to do with the visual style, the fingerprint of the director, the performances, the look, the sound, all of it. It is very successfully done from a director's standpoint.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of props to him, especially when you have to match it to Man of Steel for such a huge part of it. Which, is that a spoiler? It's in the trailers.
We'll keep that in the spoiler free.
If it's in the trailers,
but you have to match other things, and I think that is a challenge and a challenge that the director rises to, and it's fun.
It's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun.
It's
just a fun movie.
Straight up fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to have fun at the theater.
Yeah. I had fun. I had a good time. I enjoyed watching it. I'm not going to seek it out again necessarily, but I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again. It's just a fun, good time that kind of moves at a great pace and feels good.
I love that a Flash movie moved at a great pace.
It
really is the fastest 2.5 hours. It's kind of wild.
Nice. We've all been saying it.
We've all
been saying it.
Diana, you're definitely not the first one to bring it up.
No, we've all been saying exactly that every single time. And can it be spoiled?
Yeah, it can be spoiled. I mean, the trailers, I will say, have a lot of it, but there's definitely more stuff, although not as much as I expected. Maybe I'll throw that out there.
Oh, okay.
But there's spoilies for sure.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The trailer does give you a good sense. Like, this isn't hiding what it is in any real way.
This is no Spider-Man No Way Home when they were like, there's only one Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about the other two Spider-Men.
Yeah, no one's hiding stuff on this. If you've seen any promotional materials, I think you got a pretty strong vibe of what's going on. But there are still like a couple of little twists and turns, a couple little surprises, some fan service moments and stuff like that. So there's a few things that you may want to be fresh for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to say mild spoiler.
Mild spoilers. Like, I don't think I could see a tweet that would ruin the movie for me.
Yeah, I
agree.
Which
is kind of what I think of.
Social media couldn't ruin this for me.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So I don't think you'd have to like stay off Twitter if you can't see it for a few days or anything.
I agree with that 100%.
Excellent.
And before we get into the spoiler-filled section, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Factor.
Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. They can help you fuel up fast with flavorful, nutritious, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door, because who has time to make a meal?
Nobody has time.
Not even the Flash.
Nobody has time. Not even the Flash has time, because these meals are fresh, never frozen, but they're ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy. And also, they have a lot of fantastic options as well, which makes things easy for you to select according to your taste. They have stuff like their chef's choice. So, and I love just the chef's choice.
It's always like the most whatever the chef likes to make.
Yeah,
that's going to be.
What does your chef recommend? You feel classy being like, what does the chef recommend? But if you do have certain things that you need kind of catered to yourself, like I am a vegetarian, so I'm choosing their vegetarian meals. I recently had their 3-bean vegan chili, which was delicious and delightful. And also, it was one of their Calorie Smart meals, which is another option they have. You can go Calorie Smart. You can go high on protein. So whatever you might have going on with your diet, whether you're trying to, hit a certain amount of calories or a certain amount of protein, or you're vegan or you're vegetarian, that's all customizable and easy for you to do. But maybe you don't have those dietary needs. Maybe you're not like me and you're looking for the 3-bean vegan chili because you want a vegetarian or vegan dish. Maybe you're just like, I'm busy, help. Factor can be there for that.
2-minute, great meals, not frozen, so they're going to be fresh and delicious. And also, even just budget-wise, you're going to want to check Factor out. Factor is cheaper than takeout. Meals are ready faster than your delivery would be. It all comes together.
You love to hear
Everything's faster with Factor.
So what you're going to want, I like that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to head over to factormeals.com/TFS50 and use the code TFS50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code TFS50 at factormeals.com/TFS50 to get 50% off your first box. And thank you very much, Factor, for your support and for your delicious meals.
Thank you so much, Factor.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk more about The Flash. All right. We have seen the Flash. We are now in an area where we are safe to spoil.
Hey, let's spoiler it. Wonder Woman's here. Aquaman's here. George Clooney's here. I hope you didn't skip past the spoiler-filled section too quick.
I hope you didn't hit too many of those forward 30 seconds or whatever.
Oopsie daisy, it's all coming too fast.
It's all coming too fast.
The reverse Flash was Barry in this one.
Whoa.
Not Thawne.
So there was, there's, I think you hit most of the big ones there.
I think I did hit most of the big ones. Maybe like the people in the worlds that are colliding.
Yeah, that would be the other one.
And then that last big one.
And then that last big one?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the people in the worlds colliding.
Yeah, I guess. But like some of it's footage and then some of it's new.
Sure. Yeah. Before we get into like all of the, let's not just hammer home all the spoiler center things. Let's talk about the movie as a whole. When it starts out, I really enjoy kind of like where this movie begins. I enjoy the place that they put Barry in. He feels like a very sympathetic and relatable character. And this kind of like, my dad's parole hearing is coming up. I feel like is a really good kind of setup for this movie. And I think that generally speaking, this movie does a very good job. It's weird because for those familiar with the comics, this is in many ways inspired by and partially a stylistic interpretation of the Flashpoint storyline. Mm-hmm. But this is also the first movie that this version gets. So it's not an origin story, but I think they do a pretty breezy and clever job of re-hitting a lot of these key beats for fans who might be just kind of casual fans or, not the hardcore fans who are like, I know the comics and I know Flashpoint and what we're doing or not doing. So it does a good job of like hitting these key beats of who this character is without getting in the way of itself and going too hard on it. I really like how they do that.
I think that is really clever and it is very easy access. Yeah, like you meet Barry, his dad's coming up on parole. He's kind of like the underappreciated member of the Justice League. And as you said, though, it tells his origin story in such a brilliant way because he has to meet his younger self and make sure he gets struck by lightning. Mm-hmm. So you never have to be like, I got struck by lightning and I used to work in the forensics lab and we'll have a flashback because it's like we're going to see it re-happen. We don't need flashbacks. We don't need explanations, which is kind of a brilliant storytelling device to like put in that it's like the day before he gets his powers. It's really... I would say like before he time travels is probably the most fun. Everything at that hospital.
That's when it is
incredible.
Definitively fun. I'm not going to say it's better, but I agree with you. It's when it's at the most fun.
Before we introduce like mourning your dead mother, it's really fun. It's just Barry being like, I got to fit in a rescue before I get to work and get yelled at by my boss. And I'm like, this is classic Flash fun.
This dude is taking too long with this sandwich. Like this is of the guy who is late and impatient and needs food. Mm-hmm. And like all of these things are coinciding on this one clerk who's taking forever. That's a very fun comedy moment as well before he even gets to the hospital.
I mean, the fact that he does the whole rescue in the time the sandwich gets made is a delight, like a genuine, absolute delight of like, this is the epitome of what I think the Flash's life is like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really consolidates it all down.
And just, being called as like the cleanup crew and kind of complaining to Alfred. Alfred being like an ear for him to kind of complain to feels nice.
I will say, for characters who haven't really like, I guess they have had a lot of screen time together if you've watched the Snyder Cut because it's 4 hours. But for characters who haven't had that many movies together, there is a real sense of bond and camaraderie between the Justice League in this film.
Yeah, I absolutely feel that.
That I really, really like. That I maybe didn't even feel in like Avengers 2 and 3 at some points. Like these guys, like they feel like they are people who like were in the trenches together, completely trust each other, actually do call each other up for help. Maybe it's because DC is like hidden identities, so they are the only people you can talk to. You can't just like walk down the street and be like, I'm the Flash.
Yeah.
Help me get my dad out of jail.
But I think also a lot of that credit goes to the director getting these performances out of them, because even little things like Alfred, played by Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is a world-class talent and a phenomenal performer. But I never really felt Alfred in the Justice League. I'm just kind of like, okay, like you're fine. I kind of get you as this character, but this is one where I'm like, you get it and you are directed properly. Mm-hmm. Like you are the ear and you are the person people lean on, and there's there's a warmth to that like it comes out between Alfred and Bruce, but also Alfred and Barry. So like it becomes believable that Barry is venting all of these things to Alfred to be like, here's the problem with the Justice League, Alfred. It just seems like I'm always the one getting the calls and I'm the only one answering my phone and I've got other things going on. And it feels just very real that Alfred's like, yes, Barry, yes. Like he feels comforting and good, and it makes the relationships warm and bought into a lot more.
Yeah, it really could have easily been like, Barry, stop complaining and just fix the tubes or the gas lines or whatever. But it really was like, yeah, if I don't have any more instructions to give you, yeah, you can complain. I know you got this. You're going to speed around. I assume you're fixing it while you complain.
And faith in your competence as well.
Alfred is absolutely, and Batman are 100% confident in Barry. They're like, Barry's going to get the hospital.
Yeah, he'll complain a little, but he's going to get it.
I'm going to go after the criminals. He's got the hospital down. So there is a nice like faith in Barry.
Yes. And there's also nothing about Barry that's just like, I'm not going to listen to you guys either. It's just like, yeah, the gas and pipes, I got it. I'm down here. I don't like it, but I'm doing it. This is the gas and pipes. I'm fixing it.
Yeah, over and over again in the movie. He's like, Batman's the strategist, so I just do what he says, but like not in a way like a thoughtless way.
Yeah.
Just in a like, I assume Batman's thought of every angle and this is where I'm needed most.
I would even say that this is also like one of the best moments of Affleck's Batman as well, because like the action scenes are kind of like fun, whatever. That's not really, I'm going to say like Affleck's Batman. That's just kind of a generic director style and a generic Batman on a motorcycle. That's a composite of a stunt person or a CGI nothing.
That wasn't a real cape
with the voice performance of Ben Affleck going
on. The cape on the motorcycle looked oddly bad.
I didn't mind it actually.
I thought it looked quite terrible.
I kind of liked it. And
I liked actually like the whole chase. I liked
some of the gadgets, the like laying down the spike trap so the car cannot go towards the kids. Little touches I really liked in that.
I loved that so much because man, after Man of Steel, the Snyderverse was really like, we can't have casualties ever again. People were so hard on us for that. So yeah, having like a full like Batman will spike trap you if you try to hit a kid with your getaway car.
Very nice.
Chef's
Very
kiss.
good. Yeah.
Love that for Batman.
Like this chase scene. But I think where Affleck's Batman felt kind of really real and good to me was the moment afterwards when he's like dropping off Barry or whatever outside of his apartment when they're just kind of like talking about their dead parents. And Barry's like, do you want to go get a bite? And there's just kind of like a quiet nothing smirk that Affleck does where he goes like, huh. And he smiles and he thinks about it.
He wants to. And I actually don't know why he says no, but you can feel that he wants to.
And that is a moment where I'm like, that is a directorial choice. And this is Affleck actually giving a real performance here because it's not so speedily edited that it's just a gravelly person delivering a series of dark and brooding lines of like, I can't, if I eat, the city burns. Like you can't, like it's not, which is what Snyder's Batman very much felt of like, it is the dark and brooding man who also never shuts the fuck up and always has something. Oh, we're doing it again. Like it just never shuts up. And if it does shut up, the camera cuts away. But this is a moment of just like a quiet man who's just like, do I still need to keep people at an arm's length? I think I do. Barry could go evil someday. He could also be a weakness that's used against me. You can see these machinations going on in his head before he just kind of smiles and says no, but you can tell that he's happy for the invitation. And there's a lot going on there. I'm like, you actually did a thing, and a director didn't cut away while you did the thing.
He didn't. And I actually had a different interpretation that I think is completely, but yours is absolutely completely valid. I was just thinking he was like too busy because like Batman can't take a break because the world can't take a break from Batman, not like keeping someone at arm's length or anything. But like the whole conversation is lovely. The advice he gives him, like, don't live in the past, celebrate your life.
Yeah.
Is like just really nice. Like they both talking about like how they wouldn't be heroes if not for the scars of their dead parents.
Your past defines you, but live for the future. Yeah.
But I completely agree with your Snyder's Batman because literally the only other moment of Ben Affleck Batman I've really ever loved was a very much Joss added scene to Justice League when he tells Barry to just save one person.
Yes.
And that's kind of the only, I think, really great Affleck scene, and it's fully Joss's add-on. So yeah, Snyder really was like he's so cool.
He's so cool.
He doesn't
all
have
the
time to have friends.
Yeah, but he never
He's so
shuts.
cool. He doesn't need friends.
But he never shuts up about how cool he is. And if anyone ever looks at him and there's an awkward silence, he says something cool or he disappears. It's like, okay, cool it. Cool it. We
Although,
can
you
calm
know what?
down.
Snyder's really growing on us in recent years.
He-
I will say that.
That is also true.
I don't know if you guys listened to our episode. We kind of like the Snyder cut.
Yeah,
if I recall.
Our feelings are complicated about Snyder. I also really liked Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead was fun.
The zombie Netflix original he did. So there's some complicated feelings there as well. But I liked this version of Batman, is all to say.
I like this version of Batman. If we're still near the opening,
Sure.
I'm actually going to say, this is fully on the director, the very first instance of Barry using his speed to get to Gotham
Holy shit!
was absolutely a thrill ride. Like, I felt like I was on like a Disney flight simulator. Like, I wasn't even in the D-box chairs that move or anything. We were just in a regular theater, and I literally had my breath taken away. I went, holy shit! Like, I felt like I was running through the world.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And like, I thought we'd figured out every way to do super speed.
Absolutely. So did
Like,
this was different.
We've done 2 Quicksilvers and we've done this Flash already before. And this was wildly different. And like, maybe the first time where I'm like, that's how you travel that fast.
Yes.
Wow.
I would say the closest that has come to how this looks was the Justice League animated series. Because there are flat out some moments in that scene when he's running across water.
Yeah,
where it's just like,
yeah.
it feels like a kid splashing a bath. Water's just flopping up even though he's not falling, and that felt very Justice League animated series Michael Rosenbaum to me. But I felt the exact same thing. The way they did like the forced perspective of like the blurred lines, everything becomes elongated because you're traveling at the speed of light. Nothing quite looks right. But also even just like the dance fluidity of the way they portrayed Barry's running style as well. This like finger gun, I point and my arms don't go below my waist, which I think they kind of had in the Justice League movie, but it feels ultra stylized here, and it does feel like Barry is floating.
It feels like he's floating. The way they pulled away, so Barry got so small, so you kind of feel like you see the whole world at once while you're running through it. It was absolutely incredible. Like, for as good as like most Spider-Man movies are, I don't think I've ever felt like I was swinging through the city. I felt like I was running at light speed.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And then even just like showing the cities and the geography and landscapes
Passing
that he's
by,
traveling through.
But not as a blur, but also clearly so fast. Like,
Yeah.
It was an impossible feat. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Truly phenomenal. Truly, truly phenomenal.
Truly, absolutely incredible. Like, it was at that point, like, we're not very far into the movie, and I was like, this movie's going to be incredible.
This fucking slaps.
Holy
what a cool
crap.
visual style.
This was so cool. The closest I've ever felt, I would say, would probably be like Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Fall / like Rise.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Was like the closest I've ever felt to like, whoa.
Whoa. I mean, I would even say of the Snyder cut as well, like the running back in time for a second or two does look fucking phenomenal and is really cool. But I do think that like this has more to do. It's not just a set piece. It's a full visual language and style that is consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that's more difficult to do.
The Snyder cut time travel, I think because we didn't expect it because it wasn't in the original, we actually had to do a lap of our apartment. It was such a cool plot point.
We lost our
and
mind, yeah.
The visual was incredible. That is an incredible, incredible moment. But I will say, actually, this is a point I was going to bring up. The Flash movie is a sequel to the Snyder cut and not to the Joss Whedon version because he doesn't time travel in the Joss Whedon version.
Oh, shit. I hadn't even really thought about that.
And they distinctly say I time traveled once
for a second.
because he does in the Snyder cut. So that means this is a sequel to the Snyder cut and not to Joss's version, which is a little thing, but obviously purposeful in some way.
Yeah.
Because he's not like he wasn't surprised he could time travel.
Yeah. Interesting. I you know what? I didn't even really think about that, but you're absolutely right.
I'm thinking about all the angles, baby.
Yeah. But the look of that racing, of that speed, it's it's remarkable in a different way than that Snyder Cut reverse time was, because it's remarkable in the mundane, because like that Snyder Cut one, it's like a fully CG set piece at the apex of the movie. Like, this is the climax. Here we go. This is fucking big. Things are popping off, and this is huge. This is Barry leaving a coffee shop. So this is just the beauty of the mundane, and to hit that strong visually, it honestly felt like someone stepped on my chest. That looked great.
Yeah, the idea that this is what Barry feels every time he uses his powers, you're like, I get why you like these. These are great.
Mwah.
I would love to feel this every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at that hospital scene as well, I feel like it never quite matches this humor again. The film never quite matches this humor again of the series of babies falling in an escalatingly hilarious series of traps. That not only is it
and a dog
and a therapy dog, a hospital's collapsing, and just a room full of babies and a therapy dog fall out of the window. So babies, a therapy dog, and one medical worker are falling. And one baby, acid is about to be spilled on it while it's falling. Another baby has a series of scalpels falling at it. Another baby, there is an oxygen tank turned into a flamethrower that's turning towards it. These escalating series of absurdities is the fun. The first one, when I think the first one might have been acid. When they show
acid was the first one.
When they show the first one, I didn't get the joke yet, and I feel bad that I was judgmental, because they show the first one, I'm like, that's a really stupid thing to add. And then when they cut to the knives, I'm like, okay. And then they cut to a flamethrower, and I'm like, oh, I get like it. I was laughing my ass off. That's funny.
The idea that all of these babies would have hit the ground dead.
No one would know.
No, but like if you somehow had like an air cushion and you were gonna catch the babies and like the fall wasn't gonna kill them, but they all still would have been dead from other things.
Yeah, firefighters could not have helped.
No, there's no way no one could have been
because
on top
of the scalpels, acid, and flamethrowers in the sky.
The sky full of those, and maybe there was glass. Probably.
I think glass was also probably.
I don't know.
Issue.
The dog was gonna eat one. Maybe I don't know what the dog's.
Lots of issues going on there.
But it's so funny, and also it's such a bold choice, because babies in danger can put you such on edge. It can be like the most tense scene ever.
And I frankly was tense before they got into the comedy.
Well, that's the thing. The very extreme comedy of it really let you just relax back in your chair and be like, oh, we're gonna have some fun with these babies. Putting the babies in double jeopardy, literally, made it so much more fun and easy to watch babies in trouble, because you're like, well, obviously, we're not gonna acid a baby. We're not gonna two-face that baby right now.
and not only was it a good joke that kind of like doubles down and makes you relax a little, it also makes it a more palatable joke when Barry decides not to and instead decides to eat first, because they have established that he needs food, but things are speeding up because he's getting tired. And so it's very much a plane going down, put your own oxygen mask on before you save others. But I feel like if they weren't in that double jeopardy, if the babies were not in a comically absurd, dangerous scenario, even though the audience, I think, objectively would understand the language of the movie saying that Barry needs to eat to be able to save these babies, there would still be kind of like a bit of a weird feeling of selfishness or guilt or tension. Like, it wouldn't feel good. But that additional absurdity really makes him stopping to smash into a falling vending machine to eat that much better.
It's an incredible sequence, yeah. And it's right after the run that we just talked about. The opening of this movie is phenomenal, because I would say the other funniest part of this movie is when Iris goes to his apartment and he cleans everything real quick, and then the closets keep opening full of junk.
Yeah.
And the Stella Artois beers just explode because he phased them through the wall.
Beer's not meant to be vibrated at a molecular level.
It makes you wonder what it's doing to your internal organs when Barry does it to you.
Probably not good stuff.
Probably not good stuff. But yeah, the back-to-back, closet open, beer explodes, next closet opens. It is pure wonderful slapstick comedy that is just Yeah, there's just like some really pure Flash stuff happening in this movie.
Yeah. And like the whole apartment sequence feels very farcical. It feels very old sitcom. Like there are moments where I'm like, this feels like Bewitched. Like this feels like it's like I've got to hide my powers in a slapsticky, farcical way.
Yeah,
or like
that first episode of WandaVision.
Yeah. So there is definitely something very charming about the style of that. I would say the only thing that's not charming about the whole opening section that I would say like would be a negative for me would be the characters of Patty and Albert.
They don't work at all, huh?
They are a real wet fart of nothing in this.
Yeah, like, are they his friends or his enemies? Like, they were so mean to him, but also, like, maybe not?
They are comic book characters.
Yeah.
So I think this was the movie just being like, check out these comic book characters.
I don't even know Albert. I know Patty.
Albert was, he's, what is it? Doctor Science, Dr. Alchemy. It's something very on the nose.
I love knowing. I'm going to say he's Dr. Science.
He's Dr. Science or something like that. Was played by, was on the Flash TV show, played by the guy from Harry Potter.
Felton.
Yes.
Felton.
Yeah.
That was Ed. Oh, that was Albert.
That was Albert.
I think I just thought of him as Tom Felton.
So these are yes, as did I. But these are comic book characters who like have a history and a thing. But I'm like, I hate you. They're way too mean, and not even in a like we're the bullies mean. Just in a way of like, if someone doesn't hit you by the end of this scene, I'm actually mad that this scene exists. When they're like, oh, are you his friend? We thought he had 0 friends. Now he's at 1. Wow. And I'm like, you guys fucking suck.
Yeah.
You're miserable.
Barry, call HR.
Yes.
Like, these guys are harassing you at work at this point. Like,
this was bad writing and direction because it's not on the actors. I'm like, every word of dialogue is way too mean, and you are clearly being like encouraged to perform it like this. Which is just like really, even if you don't like your coworker, we've all had coworkers we don't like or coworkers who are unreliable. Like I've left work before with a coworker and been like, man, our other coworker keeps showing up late. And frankly, like, I hope they don't have this job much longer. And I would never walk up to them and be like, where are your 0 friends, fucko? Like, that is psychopathic behavior.
It's psychopathic behavior because then the other option is that they're actually like his close friends and they're just roasting him. But there's no roast. Like, you can't be someone's friend if the roast is you have 0 friends.
Yes, and you roast him too hard in front of a love interest.
Yeah.
It's way too much.
Wildly uncharming and unlikable to the point where when they come back in like when he goes back in time, you're like, oh, they're here?
Yeah, and they suck there too, but in a more paladable, normal kind of way.
Yeah, they're way more tolerable in the past.
Where it's like, oh, you're burnouts, and you're kind of in the way, but you're not like wildly psychopathically mean. Like, I'll take these two any day.
Yeah, it's just eating marshmallows and playing your piano. Like, that's kind of fun.
And also, whether Iris is a love interest or a reporter, either way is truly horrible. Because if they don't know he has a crush on her, these are two people leaving their place of work in front of a press crew covering a murder trial. And they're just like, this dumb late fucko has no friends. Anyway, enjoy your news article. They have no clue. Wildly, like, they should be fired immediately for talking like this to and in front of a reporter. And they should also just be hit for being this rude to human beings.
Yeah, it really is a kind of setup that you expect if Barry's going to do like super speed pranks on them for revenge.
Yes.
These are the kind of like mean bullies you have so that Barry can just like do super speed and put their underwear on top of their pants.
Yeah,
and, like,
their shoes are tied
them
together and they fall over and their face lands flat in like dog poop.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, Barry, he uses his powers for the right reasons. They deserved it. But like, to have people this mean that never get their comeuppance?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's very weird.
I mean, unless like there should have been a scene at the end when he like changed time just a little and they didn't work there anymore or something, or they were burnouts again.
They suck.
They suck.
They suck.
They absolutely suck.
It was hard to it was hard to digest them in the middle of this movie. They sucked real bad.
Here's who didn't suck. I really liked Sasha Calle as Supergirl.
Yes.
I thought
I'm on
she
board
was
there.
cool. She was like powerful, and she seemed like even though she wasn't in the movie for very long, because like it's halfway through before they even meet her, she just felt like a fully rounded out character. with only like so few lines of dialogue. She felt powerful but cool, but a little vulnerable, but understandable of why she didn't want to help right away. I was like, I love this character / interpretation of Kara. This rules.
I agree. It ruled. It worked. It was a very good performance, a very powerful performance, and I think like the writing of it was very clever. It worked. I understood this little bit like the anger, the hesitation, the helping towards the end. It was a real mini character arc, which is a hard thing to write, and I think that this is one that does kind of play off of your public understanding of a Kryptonian super character as well, whether you're familiar with whatever version of Superman or whatever version of Supergirl, and whether that be comics, television, film, like the Kryptonian mythos. It's like it's a Star Wars level of like you're hard pressed to find someone in the public consciousness who does not have an understanding of that.
Yeah, they're powered by the sun. They're real nice. Their planet blew up.
So I think more so than The Flash, this is a character where it's like we can just kind of skip a few things and and we can play off of your expectations of that. And I think the writing does a really sharp job of that. And I think Sasha Calle does a really sharp job of understanding how it was written for that and kind of playing against and then into your expectations to be like, I am not what you expect, but I will get there. And giving that performance is a difficulty in its own right. And I think a really phenomenal job of accomplishing that.
Yeah, giving Supergirl an entire arc in like 20 to 30 minutes that felt like resolved and interesting. Like also like she was really emotionally resonant. Like when she like freaks out because Zod says that they killed Kal-El when they intercepted his pod. I was like, I believe this. Like I believe that is your cousin and that you loved him and that you're like this upset that you didn't protect him.
Yeah.
All so fast.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, she was great.
And also a man who is a monster is like, I murdered a baby.
Yeah.
Which is that's usually the bad guy. That's usually the bad guy.
I wasn't rooting for Zod anyway, but I was at
Post
that
baby
point,
murder? Definitely.
I was like, oh, okay. So he would have acided the babies out of the hospital.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't have cared about those babies one bit.
He knocked that hospital down. This is all been Zod.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was great. How
I
did
agree.
we feel about Michael Keaton?
I loved Keaton in this. I think one of my other favorite scenes that was just really fun and playful and was a good mix of comedy and action. I like drunk kitchen spaghetti flip-flop wearing Batman. That was really fucking fun. Two Barrys walking into a kitchen with a single flip-flop on the ground and after passing through the record room with a bunch of like knocked over liquor bottles and stuff. So he's clearly like he's clearly liquored up.
Yeah, he's lit. He's had a night.
And this like disheveled hermit Bruce coming out of a cabinet and just going at them was so fun.
It was really fun. It was a really nice mix of like he's Batman and he can fight and that's how he can beat up like no Powers Barry so easily. But then also Powers Barry just being like, and just moving out of the way of everything. But also being like a few times almost not making it. Almost being like when the broom's coming at him being like, oh, which way do I? Oh shit.
How do I? He's really covered.
Oh shit.
He's come at me big and wide, so I don't.
Yeah, like Batman would win this in a heartbeat. No, Powers is what's clearly like noticeable.
But also the frying pan moment being the exact framing and parallel of when Affleck throws the Batarang at Barry.
Oh yeah.
So it's when Affleck shows up and he
yeah.
throws and Barry kind of looks past and then catches it. Mm-hmm. It's the exact shot but with a frying pan in a drunk lunatic's kitchen.
Yeah.
And I think that's very funny.
And that Barry and young Barry doesn't figure out it's Batman because he threw a frying pan and not a Batarang. I also really like the explanation using spaghetti of like timelines. Sometimes they're parallel, sometimes they're wildly different. I'm like, that is how spaghetti works.
There's so much multiversal content out there. We all know.
We are awash.
As this movie references it, and many other movies do, Back to the Future, but there's so much other multiversal content. We are running thin on different ways to describe multiversal timelines. It is like gun to a writer's head. You are hard pressed to find a fresh way to describe this outside of the context of a different movie. The spaghetti is a fresh take, and I think a pretty goddamn fun one.
The spaghetti was fresh and fun. I feel like the only other one I've ever really liked was just the non-explanation in Looper, or I think Bruce Willis is like, what, do you want me to get a bunch of matches and we try to figure it out, or some kind of line like that.
Yeah.
But this was very good. Yeah, it explained it nicely. And then at the end, it was like, and also I'm just making spaghetti. Like, it's like I'm that smart that the thing I was doing anyway just explains multiversal theory easily and correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. Wildly fun.
So yeah, I thought that was it was very cute, very good. I love that Eric Stoltz's Back to the Future was the big thing.
This was a really nice like early hint that the things were wrong. Like obviously things were gonna be wrong.
Yeah.
Like we knew that, but like it's small enough for Barry to like not have questioned it right away. Like maybe this guy just saw the deleted scenes that do exist of Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future. Like there's no reason to think that I fucked up this timeline super, super bad yet. But yeah, the running Eric Stoltz. And then them listing like a million movies with the actor is known but wrong.
Yes, I can't remember what the other examples were, but it was a great series of like how that would cascade into a series of other things now.
Yeah, if no Michael J. Fox, then who?
Then
Michael J. Fox is in Footloose.
Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon wasn't in Footloose. Kevin Bacon was, I think, in a
Top Gun?
Was in Top Gun, I think. Yeah. Or maybe there was a Patrick Swayze thing. Either way, it kept going, and that was quite fun. Yeah. So I liked that about it.
I like that about it. Should we talk about some cameos?
Sure.
Do you think this? I don't know if this scene was always there. Do you think Gal Gadot refused to let Shazam 2 be her last scene, or do you think she was always in this?
I think she was always in this.
Okay, because it's such a small, unnecessary cameo.
I agree, but so is Superman at the end of Black Adam. I really do think, and it's weird to kind of go into this movie to reference back to our spoiler-free review to be like, this is a dead man walking, that this is a movie that's been chopped in half and doesn't know it's dead yet, kind of walking several steps forward in a samurai movie, where it's like, obviously, when this movie was written and in production, you have to write it and produce it assuming more movies will be made, because why wouldn't you?
That's fair.
There's no reason to not, because at that point, HBO management hadn't shifted and changed. The direction hasn't changed. James Gunn wasn't in charge of it. Everything was business as usual. And I really do think that their intention was to get things back on track in a post-Snyder series of films. To be like, okay, so we've got Wonder Woman in Shazam 2. We've got Superman showing up in Black Adam, and we're bringing some of the crew back together for The Flash. I really do think that like this was a series of steps they were making to be like, you thought we were taking our foot off the gas, which everyone did. And I think they even publicly said a few movies ago, even before all the big changeover, that they were like, we're not really doing a DCEU or building up to another thing again. Cavill's out. Affleck doesn't like this. And like, it was a series of like, we're taking our foot off the gas and we're just going to do some standalones. There's a Joker movie. There's a different Batman movie, whatever.
Blue Beetle is standalone. No one's going to be in Aquaman 2. It'll just be Aquaman.
So I think they were taking their foot off the gas and then they put it back on. And this movie continues that, I think, is where I think. So I think Gal was probably always meant to be there.
I think I will agree now that you've like processed this out, because I also think this movie was supposed to come out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like, but way before this, like it's been filmed for forever. So it was supposed to come out way before all the Warner Brothers stuff came out, before Shazam 2. So Shazam 2 would have been her last appearance if things had come out in the right order.
Yes, I guess that's entirely true. Yeah.
So yeah. All right. She was. It was nice to see her for a second at the very least. I'm glad this will be her last one and not Shazam 2.
Yeah.
Unless she's an Aquaman.
It's still winding down.
Yeah, there's still remnants.
It's so strange.
It's still around, even though it's dead. It's very weird.
I have 100,000,000 questions about the production of this movie and what the plans were. So, for example, to jump ahead, if we're talking about cameos, George Clooney. I cannot tell I cannot tell. If that is we're not making any more of these, so we reshot a joke, or if it was Ben Affleck is truly miserable and we do want to make more of these, and Clooney has a sense of humor and he's back in. I don't know if that's sincere, because some of this movie clearly was sincere plans of what things would be like in the DCEU going forward.
Yes.
And that's one where I'm like, I don't know if that's a sincere plan or if that is a joke that you reshot after you learned all of its dying.
I'm going to say that is purely a joke because, like, I guess that establishes that the world's different if you needed to, like, reset things. Like, if Affleck isn't Batman and it is Clooney, not that Clooney would be back as Batman, but that, like, things are different. Like, the heroes are different. He did change things or something. But yeah, like, that's gotta be just a joke because the scene's not necessary. It's not like they're closing the loop on, like, a plot line and you needed Batman and Affleck said no. It is just a joke about how George Clooney was Batman once.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I hated this, by the way. I thought this was the worst ending of any film of all time. All time. It really leaves a sour taste in your mouth for a movie that I quite enjoyed other than this.
I didn't mind the Clooney. I have a bunch of questions about it, but I didn't mind the Clooney.
I definitely mind. It's a joke that I don't think lands. I hate that they said fuck right at the end. This has been a really wholesome, fun movie. He said, "What the fuck is this?" The Flash said fuck.
I did not even really clock that.
You were so Clooney and odd.
I was looking around the theater like, is everyone seeing this?
Are we all seeing Clooney?
Yeah.
I didn't like that Clooney was there. I thought it really we just had a really nice scene about like his dad is going to be like out of jail now. This is hugely emotional for him. Like we summed up this storyline really nicely, and then we just end on the Flash swearing and George Clooney is Batman. I was like, I don't like how this feels actually. This like I want a scene where you like hug your dad and see your actual friends because as we said earlier, like he had a nice bond with Affleck Batman. And he's gone apparently. Like I don't like this ending at all.
Okay. A couple of the things there. I'm a mixed bag on what you're saying here. I agree on I didn't clock the fuck. I'll agree with the fuck. That doesn't need to be there in that scenario. It's not the character to say it. It's a bit off.
Didn't like it.
I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on the fuck. I kind of like. And I agree there could have been maybe a nice moment with the father. I would have liked that as well. I don't mind the Clooney thing as both a joke and I think the implication of you still changed the timeline, Barry.
Yeah, he definitely did.
What Keaton told you was that past and future are connected on the spaghetti string, and you moved the shelf the tomatoes were on. All you did was think that you came up with a more clever way to change, and you didn't change the past, but you did change the future, which is connected to the past. So, of course, there's going to be other repercussions. So I kind of like it as a plot consequence for that. And I don't mind Clooney being there because like it just doesn't distract. It doesn't bother me like it does you.
I think I don't mind the idea of a consequence because he definitely still did do a ripple effect change. Like your dad being out of prison is a huge future change.
Yeah.
For like a timeline shift.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there could have been a way that wasn't Clooney. This didn't do it for me. Right. Also, you're gonna bring Clooney and you're not gonna give me any Chris O'Donnell Robin. You're not gonna feed this beast.
Feed this beast. Thirsty ass.
I haven't seen a Robin in a movie in years.
You absolute thirsty ass.
I gotta watch NCIS LA if I want to see Chris O'Donnell these days.
See, I think
he should have been in the car. He should have been waiting in the car.
I think if you're doing it for full joke, if you're doing it for we're not coming back with more movies, this is 100% joke, you get Clooney and O'Donnell.
Yeah!
That tells the audience this is a joke.
This is the shoe.
We're not being serious. When you show Chris O'Donnell showing up as Robin, that tells the audience we're not serious today.
Yeah. And you're welcome, Diana.
And Diana, it gives you what you want. Everyone gets. We understand the scene better, and Diana's thirsty ass gets what she wants. Mm-hmm. So everything's better if O'Donnell is there. Just being Clooney tells me that I'm like, was this in the original script, if you got more movies, it would be this. I just don't know.
I honestly,
don't
this
know.
one will be forever a wonder point of like what was going to happen after this.
Yes.
Yeah, there is just no way to know.
No, unless someone just comes out and tells us.
Maybe though,
There's-
you know what?
then
Andy
maybe-
Muschietti, he could just...
I actually think that Clooney would be the one to just spill the beans.
Actually, no, I'm going to say James Gunn will tell us someday about what was supposed to happen,
James
and then
Gunn
he
don't
changed
care.
it all.
Yeah, James Gunn don't care.
will just tweet it out.
Yeah.
He is like that Trump guy who's like, and then Trump just tweeted it. James Gunn is very similar.
Yeah.
James Gunn just puts it all out there. He's like, this rumor is false. No, this is true. Groot said that. This is what it translates to. He will answer every question.
Yeah. And I think that Keaton would also do it, but Keaton doesn't know. Keaton doesn't have the information, but Keaton would say it and doesn't care.
For those who don't know, Keaton revealed months before it was announced that he was in this movie, just casually on Conan O'Brien's podcast.
Was it Conan's or was it Mark Maron? No, I think it was Conan's. I think you're right. Yeah,
I think it was Conan.
Yes, yeah. I remember. Yeah, it was on Conan's podcast, and they're talking. Conan's like, "What were you doing today?" And he was like, and Michael Keaton's just like, "I was over at Warner Brothers. I was playing Batman. It was weird. I was back in the Batman costume again." And you can hear in the interview, you can hear Conan O'Brien kind of shitting himself, and like you can hear him looking around the room, and then he's like, "So you're Batman again?" And Conan even says, "Are you allowed to tell us that?" And Michael Keaton's response is something along the lines of like, "Well, I am him. I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to." Like Keaton doesn't understand what he can and cannot say.
Well, also, I feel like Keaton is just at the point where he's like, who's going to stop me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Michael Keaton. I'm not Tom Holland, 21-year-old, just starting my career. Marvel's going to send a sniper. He's like, I'm end of the road, Michael Keaton.
Bring
like,
it.
You try to end me.
Yeah.
I'm beloved.
I'm Batman, Birdman, Vulture, and Batman again. If you need a man in the sky, I'm it. So get out of here.
I'm all three,
I'm
baby.
all of it. So he would be the one to spill it, but he doesn't know. Now let's talk about while we're continuing the cameo train. Let's talk about the multiversal collision that's happening, kind of at the climax of the film. Which we'll talk a little bit more about, I think, as well. But the climax of the film, it is three Barrys now at the nexus of space and time in the
Chrono
Time
Ball?
Coliseum.
They call it the Chrono Ball.
So they're in the Chrono Ball, and you can see other worlds, and there's like these holes and dimensions getting torn open as they fight, and these other dimensions are coming in and colliding, and that's when we get the big. Here's cameos of other alternate Earths, you know, and we get a Christopher Reeve Superman
that was
cameo.
Nice. That one felt nice.
And a quick, like, an Adam West Batman.
That one felt really nice. He's
well.
so silly.
And then I think
then you got even pre-Reeve, the other early Superman,
yes.
who I think was also last name was Reeve. It's weird. So very early Superman.
And then I think the very
Reeve.
early Flash as well, like pre.
I couldn't tell if that was John Wesley Shipp or not.
I don't think that was John.
I don't know if there were other Flashes.
I guess there must have been because it looked something like John Wesley Shipp. But
it was like the Jay Garrick Flash, but who John Wesley Shipp also played though.
But that wasn't the costume he played on his Flash television show.
I don't know which
and
Flash
he wasn't
that was.
Flash in black and white, so I don't know who that was. So yeah, we had that. We had the black and white, the Reeve. We had Adam West, and then I think those are the three before we.
I think those are the three
before we get to Nicolas Cage's Superman from the canceled Kevin Smith script. Of Superman Lives fighting a giant mechanical spider, which later was used in the film Wild Wild West.
This is a real love-hate moment for me. This Nicolas Cage Superman spider.
This is a nerd litmus test. This is when we talk on this podcast, we don't often get into like too deep. We don't often get too deep into like comic books, behind the scenes, all this other bullshit. This is one where I'm like, this movie is fairly palatable for your average, somewhat knowledgeable of comic book fan, except for this, which is bananas, like 4 layers deep of comic book movie bullshit.
This is bananas because the rest of the movie is not like this.
Yeah.
Like this would fit absolutely in Spider-Verse. And does not fit the rest of this movie, which is not a touchstone of Flash things that are happening.
Yeah.
Like this movie is not an ode to the Flash or to DC in general. It really is mostly Snyderverse, like really contained. And then they're like, also here's like a 3-minute movie of the movie that was supposed to come out in the 80s that is just like a legend and a myth. There's like 2 behind the scene photos of Nicolas Cage in this costume, and then Kevin Smith.
They really recreated the costume right.
And then Kevin Smith's like long telling about the scripting and absolutely being contractually obligated to put a giant spider in the movie.
Which is another long, you can look up this Kevin Smith story of an insane producer who's just like, the kids want to see giant spiders. And eventually that producer goes on to make Wild Wild West, in which there is a giant mechanical spider.
But yeah, this is the deepest of deep cuts. This is not like a famous comic book that gets referenced or an Easter egg that isn't like plot load bearing. It is, we created a new continuity for a joke. And it was so funny if you know like what's happening. Like, we were laughing our asses off.
We busted it. We busted a gut laughing at this.
We were dying laughing that they actually spent like $2 million to make part of this movie. You got Nicolas Cage, you built a spider, you did a whole section about it. At the same time, I'm like, this was kind of at an emotional crux moment of the film, though, that kind of ruined what was happening emotionally, which is the love-hate aspect of this. It's so funny, but it also doesn't fit what was going on in this moment in any way. Yeah. So it's real mad. How did you feel about it?
I would have liked it if the other ones weren't what they were.
They were also serious.
They were also serious and also pissed me off. Is that what I really didn't like? Because obviously I enjoy paying respect to Christopher Reeve, paying respect to Adam West. I think that is great. There's part of me that's like, it's a little bit emotionally manipulative to really dip into the well of deceased actors.
Oh, yes.
Trying to garner goodwill for this moment. And also there's something about it where I'm like, this is actually really problematic and cheap that all of your that other than Nicolas Cage, your multiversal events are deep fakes created with archival footage you already own that you don't need to hire actors for or pay licensing rights or figure anything out. There's something where it's just like, we fed this script into a computer algorithm and ChatGPT, deep fakes and AI and be like, we really shat out a legally cheap thing that we are allowed to do, and that the Reeves estate's lawyers and West's estate lawyers can't come at us for because we used a series of JPEGs to create a deep fake and never use their voice. And there's just a lot about it where I'm like, this is a bam, bam, bam of 3 scenes of like, if you have any problem with computers completely digitizing the art of film, we're going to fucking hit you hard back to back to back.
Wow.
And
okay.
I was furious. One of them is an homage. 3 of them in a row is we saved money by stealing copyrighted images from your estate. That's what 3 in a row is.
Okay.
And to be like, we don't have Grant Gustin. There's no we don't have Grant Gustin's Flash in any of these images. We don't have Robert Pattinson's Batman. We don't have Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. We don't have Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Anything that is a living actor that costs us $1 fucking or a single email, we threw in the absolute garbage to have a series of computers shit out some emotionally manipulative dribble. I was furious.
I can tell.
Furious.
You're very mad.
Yeah. And then when they got the Nicolas Cage, I'm like, this is fun but does not match the fury I just had.
They paid Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage got paid. I guarantee you Nicolas Cage got paid for this.
Nicolas Cage got paid. I will say the 80s Supergirl is alive, the blonde. Sure. But I get what you're saying about it is emotionally manipulative and it is weird. I know I shouldn't, but I was actually giving them the kind of of the doubt. What about
the benefit of the doubt?
The benefit of the doubt. I was kind of giving the benefit of the doubt that I didn't know if they owned any footage because like Warner Brothers is so weird with what they license out. I'm like, do they only own old footage and old Superman? Because like, but there are more recent like even movie ones. Like they must own Brandon Routh's Superman. I don't know if they own any TV stuff. Like I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Brandon Routh's Superman isn't here. There's like other things like, and it's mostly Superman based. I know there hasn't been a Flash, other movie Flash, so that's weird. But like, if you're gonna show Adam West, it's like, yeah, there were other Batmans as well.
Yeah.
So it is. I don't know if it was this is what we own the rights to, or like, because no Grant Gustin is.
Yes.
Wow. Well, because they hate that guy, huh?
Because I think
they do not want to respect that man.
I think the other things, even that, like the CW stuff, I think is complicated. But the other movie stuff, like Routh's Superman and things like that.
I think Routh's Superman is the most noticeably missing if you're going to have 3 Supermen.
And I think they could use a scene from that movie or archival footage, but if they don't call him or pay him and deep fake him, that I think is a big PR problem. And I'm very curious to find out what the actress who played Supergirl has to say, because that's the only one living in that group that I'm like, what did you sign off on? Did you know that this happened? Did they think they can get away with it without contacting you?
I mean, I haven't seen that movie in a while. Like, it might actually just be footage that they've like composited with Reeves's Superman.
But obviously, like Brandon Routh, Christian Bale, like they would have to have full on conversations and agreements. So for the most part, I found this section a pretty offensive and bleak vision into the future of computerized entertainment.
That's fair. And yeah, I was mostly disappointed that it was like, oh, is this for just the older generation? Like, where are the young heroes of this?
Where is Grant Gustin?
Where is Grant Gustin? Where is, we have Tyler Hoechlin. There's been so many Supermen.
Hoechlin, of course.
There's so many Supermen to only be like, only pre-1970 Supermen in this house, and no Flashes because we didn't get Grant Gustin. He's the only other Flash.
No Melissa Benoist, like no Berlantiverse stuff.
No Berlantiverse, even though Berlanti was at one point hired to direct this.
Yeah, not even an animated image as well.
Ooh, yeah, because you can have an animated world. It's like weird.
Absolutely.
You've got a Nick Cage Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you're going to pay respect to Adam West's Batman, you need to pay respect to Kevin Conroy's Batman. You need to pay respect to both of those, but to use Kevin Conroy's voice means that you would have to pay out. And that is the difference, I think. Yeah. It's and also it's like not even like wildly emotionally resonant scene. It's kind of like messed up with the joke about Nicolas Cage, and then like it's just not quite landing emotionally, all this stuff with 3 berries. Yeah.
And I really wanted it to. Like I really wanted to have my heart torn out by this.
I didn't have my heart torn out, but I did to kind of get back onto track to cool myself off. I'm cooling down here now. I'm cooling down. I appreciate you going on that ride with me as I let that out.
I love your passion for not deep faking people and paying estates and actors. Andrew, that's a wonderful love to have.
And also respect voice actors. They own those characters as much as any on-camera actor ever has.
Of course.
R.I.P. Kevin Conroy, you're a goddamn legend.
We miss you.
We miss you. Bless you. But to get back to the general plot of the movie, I agree with you. It didn't have emotional resonance. I kind of liked Barry being his own Reverse Flash. That was scary and kind of cool. And him getting shards of Kryptonian ship more and more embedded in him as he is unwilling to relinquish this idea. I thought that was kind of scary and cool. It didn't have the emotional crux, but it was cool. It had the cool factor.
It could have been like a really great story. I like this twist. I love that it's not just some random Reverse Flash from the future or some other thing who like killed his mom and it's a complex story. I love the idea that it's an altered Barry who is like just getting all this stuff in him. He wasn't like used enough throughout the film for you to be worrying about it or like caring about it, but the explanation of what's happening and how he physically got changed that way. And also just like, it's such a relatable, understandable villain turn, which isn't even a villain turn. Like destroying the world because you're trying to save everyone and not let anyone die is like honorable.
You're trying to save Supergirl.
Yeah, like it's an honorable reason to be like not willing to listen and to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. So like he doesn't really even become the villain. He just becomes his own antagonist, which is I think a little bit different. And it's a very interesting story on paper. It's not it's not as resonant as it could be, but it's like, it's a nice twist on the Reverse Flash story when you have to tell it in 2.5 hours while you're also introducing a new Batman and a timeline and a Supergirl and all this stuff. It's a really great way to tell this story.
And I also really liked the flashback of the mom helping with homework, of the like, there are infinite ways to solve the problem. Be like, sometimes you just have to let things go. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not about finding the correct number of right answers, and it's just about, I was like, that's actually I didn't even see it coming at the time. It just felt like a nice parental moment, and that did a really good job of kind of like tying itself back into the plot of the movie.
Tying into like our Barry and convincing other Barry who remembered his mom saying that. And just like the Barrys would be different enough if you grew up with your mom as opposed to your mom being murdered. So you're like, yeah, this is why they can't meet face to face. They've got an age difference. They've been raised wildly different. It's a really good story.
Yeah.
I really wish and I will say if we're talking about emotional resonance, when he has to put the tomato sauce back in the grocery store is a really nice scene.
That was the only scene that got me, but it did get me.
Yeah, when he stops time to have a little bit more time with her to put the tomato sauce away, it's really nice. That's the best scene in the movie for like gut punches.
Yeah. When he's like, I love my mom and I'm gonna miss her, and she's like, you should tell her that. I was like, oh.
And he like hides his face like while she hugs him, and then he just slows down time. Oh, and like says goodbye to her.
Rough.
It's really rough. Yeah, it's a hard one, but it was nice. But he got to save his dad and delete Ben Affleck from existence.
So
Ben Affleck's like, yeah, I hate it here.
The true winner of this movie is Ben Affleck.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Affleck did do press for this movie to be like, bye, I'm out of here.
If the DCEU continued, I could see Ben Affleck being so happy that he is released. That he's
Have fun,
freed.
George.
Yeah. And now at least George can take an L like a trooper.
George can.
Affleck does not deal well with public disdain or criticism, but George just took that hit and was like, "Yeah, y'all didn't like it. Here's your money back." George just kept moving forward without so much as a frown.
No, but Affleck needs to order 18 Dunkin' Donuts and smoke a cigarette.
Absolutely.
Every time
He's chain smoking.
Gets a bad review.
He's chain smoking in an alley behind a Dunkin' when he gets a bad review, and George is just out. George is buying satellites.
George is buying satellites. He's stopping terrorists. He's marrying environmental lawyers who fucking rock. He's having a great life.
He's having a great time. George has never had Dunkin' in his goddamn life. Never once. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about The Flash. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, like it's a big movie, so there's lots to explore, but I feel like we touched on all the important bits.
I feel like we touched on a lot of it. Well, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, to please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts, because it helps us move up the charts and it helps us get recommended to new listeners by the algorithm of these different podcast apps. And it also just warms our hearts.
Guys, we want warm hearts and lots of charts. These are the things that we want in our lives. We want heartburn, and we want the charts to be like, talking superheroes. Everyone's talking about talking superheroes.
Heartburn, chartburn. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's fun too.
You know what I'm talking about?
We got lots of catchphrases that all boil down to, please leave us a 5-star review. It would mean the world to us.
Absolutely. And that's a free way to support the podcast. And if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on our Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever is in your budget, and you'll get some kind of a cool bonus for doing so. Even if you only have $1 in your budget, those add up and make a difference in our lives. Patreon is largely how we pay our rent, how we make this our full-time job. We legitimately would not be able to do this if it wasn't for Patreon. So even if you have $1 in the budget, you can go over there, kick in $1. You'll get our webcomic a day early. At the $3 level, which is a new level we recently added, you can now get our podcasts early and ad-free. So if you want the episodes early and ad-free, then you can subscribe at $3 and get that, which is awesome.
If you're listening to this on Monday, you could have listened to it on Thursday, which is when we saw The Flash. And you get, before the weekend hits, you get to find out the spoiler-free review. You get to find out whether you should hit it up, check it out.
Get in there quick.
Lots of early access fun.
Absolutely. And then as well at the $10 level, we do have the option of getting an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month on the bonus episode of the podcast, we did It Chapter 2, also directed by Andy Machete. So we did another one over there on the Patreon. We did It Chapter 2. You might have listened to It Chapter 1 last week. If you want more It action, and Chapter 2 is very different from Chapter 1 in terms of our opinions and also, all of the cast and actors. And
you're not going to get the same podcast twice on that one.
Very different one.
For the same director for both. That was a trip.
Yeah, bless you, Bill Hader. You're doing so much.
Oh, bless you, Bill.
Bill. Oh, Billy boy.
Thank God for Bill Hader.
That episode's available right now on the Patreon page. So check out the different levels. Consider what is in your budget. If you have something to spare, we really appreciate it. You can head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Despite there being like some little problems along the way, I don't have quite a huge change. I think my biggest change is near the end when we're deciding to like kind of let the mom die because this world is like too messed up. I'd like to raise the stakes a little more. And also I wasn't feeling like totally gut punched every time Batman and Supergirl died. It kind of wasn't feeling like they were dead each time. So I'm going to move this end battle more into Metropolis, and there's more destruction, there's more death of civilians happening. It's not just Supergirl and Batman that are in danger. It's like, oh no, it's like Metropolis is getting wrecked, like in Man of Steel. Like this part's happening. So like people are dying, the Flashes are trying to save them. And then the turning point actually for our Flash, the Flash we know, is going to be that he finds the little boy he did save in the regular timeline, and he has died in this timeline because the Flash was trying to do too much.
We never get back. They show that kid again and we never get back to it.
It felt so important. It felt like we were going to get back to this kid so hard, and it didn't come up again. And I was like, I really want Barry to find this kid in the rubble and be like, I didn't even save the one I saved in the original timeline. Like this world is doomed. There's nothing I can do here. I've made everything worse. Even the one thing I saved originally, I have made worse. So he finds that little kid dead, and that's when that's his turning point of we have to undo this. Because I just thought that was like the moment of him saying I couldn't save the dad was like heartbreaking. It was a really like hard to watch flashback in a good way of like, yeah, it was your first day. There's not much you could do. I like the idea that he tried to help and just didn't have the tools yet. And I really wanted a callback to what was going on with that kid. So I killed him, but also he'll be alive when we let the mom die. So that's my biggest change. Just going to have like a little bit more death and destruction to raise the stakes near the end.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you?
Well, I love that. I think that is phenomenal, and that's a great callback. That really kind of brings it all together. I love that. I think that's incredibly strong. For me, I've kind of torn on this one as to exactly what I would do. I think one of my main ones is the multiversal big cameo experience.
Of course.
I would, and not only, of course, in the sense that, like, of course, I would change it from AI deepfakes into, even if you're budgetarily trying to save money, I get maybe you can't hire Brendan Routh and Christian Bale to show up and shoot original footage.
You can afford Brendan Routh. He was on a CW show for 5 years.
At the very minimum, pay the licensing fees to use the footage from those movies. Yeah. You don't need new original footage. Pay the licensing fees to use the footage from those movies. But I think the other big thing would be change that fan service cameo moment and move it to a previous visitation into the time orb, the time coliseum or whatever. Move it into 2 trips in there earlier. So that way it's not interrupting what is meant to be the emotional core of this character, which is having an argument with themselves about what is worth giving up on and if you should save yourself for the sake of saving others later. So I think that by putting all of that fan service cameo bullshit in the middle of the emotional climax really messed it all up. I would move that to 2 visits earlier to that time vortex.
I can absolutely get behind that. Yeah.
And then it's fun. And then it's like him and an earlier Barry being like, what is going on? I still don't want to give up. And then we can build to the climax.
Yeah. And like all the worlds colliding kind of came out of nowhere. And So absolutely. It's more fun to have them earlier, and it's less emotionally manipulative when you're just like, oh, they're here, look who's here, and definitely more footage or archival footage of more recent alive actors, for sure. Yeah, everyone should be there.
Yeah.
This is a celebration of like the DC multiverse, and the Flash as a character, and Batman as a character, and the Supers as characters. Like, everyone should be there.
Yeah. That's it. Should be a celebration.
It should be.
Let it be a celebration,
it was not.
and not a distraction during the emotional climax.
And Nick Cage can fight a spider in the middle of the movie.
I'm still okay with Nick Cage fighting a spider if it's at a different point in the movie
100%.
and if it is more playful.
100%. It needs to be a different point in the movie. We are on the same page. This is a great change.
Yeah, I love it. I think we've done a good job here.
Excellent. You had a celebration. I killed a child. We've nailed it.
We're all doing the same thing here.
We're all doing the same thing.
We're all doing basically the
no
same
one's
thing.
going to jail.
I did
Not
also
me.
think, to kind of piggyback off of your idea as well, just one final thought of the saving the kid thing. When we mentioned that, like, even though it was unfortunately like a Joss rewrite of the Justice League movie, that like just save one person Barry type of thing, I really thought they were going to call back to that here. Of like the alternate Barry, this kind of redux that we're dealing with, that the Barry we're previously familiar with would have to talk to him and be like, save one person. Be like, no, I can save everyone.
Just
and it's
save
like,
one.
oh, you didn't have the instruction that I had. You didn't learn the lessons that I've learned.
That would have been a nice callback, but this is a sequel to the Snyder Cut.
So,
as we determined.
That would work. Well, that is going to be it for this week for the podcast. Next week on the podcast, we're going to be back, and we are building up to the new Indiana Jones.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah. Pew, 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 whip. Those sounds that you love on Indiana Jones. And next week, building up to the new one, we'll be talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
That should be fun.
That'll be a good time. So we'll be talking about that next week. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes, or you can find all of our podcasts, articles, webcomics, and everything at FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye.